Order, and I don't think anybody from the public. Nobody.
Nope.
Okay. We can't approve the minutes because we don't have enough quorum for it. But just if anybody wants to talk about what we had a joint meeting with the select board, and I thought it went well. I mean, certainly things were brought to our attention, but again, I'm sure there's going to be further meetings. We don't have any control over that right now, obviously. So the select board's going to have to wait, and hopefully with the town meeting coming up in March, once that's approved, I think then things will get reverted over to us.
Yeah, I wish
What do you think is getting approved at town meeting?
Well, I don't know. We're not sure. I mean, I think there are additional funds that they're looking for, aren't there?
So my understanding, the project is on hold now because they decided to postpone anything happening until at least next fall.
Okay.
That being said, there are a couple articles related to the building itself, one for the pool and one for the HVAC system. I don't know if this committee is going to be involved in any of that discussion.
Again, if the select board turns it over to us, yes, then it would come under our purview. And I mean, that was brought up, as you know, at the meeting, and it was, if we do take it over, the OPM and the project manager will be coming in and giving us updates, and I'm sure we'll do the same thing we did with other projects. We'll be approving bills and getting any updates on where the project stands.
The one thing I have asked Christie for is whatever the latest set of plans and latest estimates are, wherever we cut that off, I think we should, or I personally would like a copy. I would think that information should be available to this committee, just to understand.
Would that come through Christie, or would that come through the OPM?
Well, our link to the OPM architect is through Christie. Right,
okay. But Peter was there, and you're part of that with the HVAC units on the roof and stuff, with the rebates. So
yeah, that article is planned to go to town meeting, and it is there's rebates that cover like 70% of the cost or something. So it's a good opportunity to take action, and it is independent of the senior center project, which got deferred.
Yeah, so that whole project was put together actually with the town's HVAC company, Apex Mechanical. When we purchased the building, I had asked him for a quote for you adding that building on for preventative maintenance of the unit. So he came out, the owner, Jay, and we did he looked at all train units up there, and he looked at everything that was going on, and he said, these are pretty well at life's end. And he goes, the town really should think about, replacing these. And I said, well, we're going to try to start budgeting for, 2 units, every other year type of thing to replace them. And he goes, look at this, absolutely great incentives. Train makes a direct replacement hybrid heat pump system that goes directly right, same footprint, same weight, same everything on these buildings. And back when we first started talking about it, to me it sounded like, yeah, right, this will never happen, right? So we just kept pursuing it. I ended up bringing Energy Source on. It's an energy consultant that we've used on other projects in town. They got with Jay, and we got equipment prices, and we just started putting it together. And lo and behold, we got a $523,000 rebate on equipment. So it more than paid for the equipment. The bottom line, I could go on. The whole project would be a little over $900,000. And with all the rebates and everything we get, the town is looking at $400,000. It's an opportunity that even the utility companies say this will never happen again. You got to get in on this now. And it's
come up.
Yeah, it's not. It's not listed as as part of a remodeling project on the building. It's purely energy reduction, and that's why we're able to get the incentives and everything we're doing up there.
So I have
Pete, could you move the mic over?
a comment and a question. The comment is the particular opportunity was that Mass Save runs in 3-year cycles. There's a 3-year cycle that ended in past December, and the incentive that we got would not be available in the next cycle because of the shift away from any investment in fossil fuels.
Yes.
So this is a hybrid system, so there's some fossil fuel use. So the incentives were better by going quick, and I think it was a good move by the town. The question part of it was, I hear the top line number keep going, the rebate number stays the same, but the top line keeps going up. Like, I thought it was originally like 700,000, now it's
Well, there was
8 and
things
then 9.
that weren't included on the original numbers, Pete. The pool pack unit, there's no incentives on that.
Yep.
That unit alone is $165,000. So I think originally the pool pack, and then there's another unit behind it that takes care of the locker rooms. Those 2 units originally were left out because there wasn't any incentives on it. Once they put it all together, and Energy Source talking with National Grid, there was a little bit of incentives on the, not the pool pack, but the one that take care of the locker room. I think it's Alco is units. There was some incentives, not as much as the others. So we decided to, we'll take care of that one too. So we actually added on more equipment, and
Okay.
that's why the numbers went up. And it's totally the town's discretion. We don't, if we're going to put money into the pool, then we need to replace the pool pack. That does all the dehumidification, it assists in heating. We did have, Ben Burrows and I met with a solar company to put panels on the roof. They gave us a price for that. I'm sure Ben still, has all that information because everything was sent to him. So there's other, things in the works, but that's why the number seems to keep going up on one end. The commitment from the utility companies that's what they're giving us, and that won't change.
And it has to be frozen because it's last year's.
Yeah.
It was a commitment out of last year's program. I think that makes sense. I have a question, I guess, in regard to presentation at town meeting of whether the pool pack will be part of the pool presentation versus the HVAC,
That's a good question.
because it's really justified based on the idea that we're doing the pool. We don't need that pool conditioning system if we're not doing the pool.
Right.
So I kind of.
I don't know how the warrant's written
Yeah.
up. I'm sure that's being tracked by someone
Yep.
in town management. Because I agree with you, if we're not gonna do anything with the pool and it ends up gonna,
It changes the HVAC project, but the funding is
It stays the same, right.
justified based on the need to, or the desire to open the pool.
So the question I have is, who are we contracting with to do, who does the town contract with to do the work? National Grid?
do what work?
Do the HVAC work, if it gets voted?
So the HVAC work does not have to go out to bid because I don't know what the number is, because it's an energy project.
Yeah.
And we're, Energy Source, the consultant that's running the project,
Yeah.
they're a preferred vendor, so it waives any type of typical procurement. And there's some code that it falls under that.
So does the town contract with Energy Source or
Yes.
National Grid?
National Grid is just there to, when the project's complete, pay the bills.
They have ratepayer dollars in a bucket, and they pay for this type of stuff,
Yeah.
but the work gets done, and then they pay for it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
I personally be interested in seeing the numbers in terms of how they calculated that 900,000.
It's the cost of all the equipment, the cost of the labor to,
Yeah.
there's rigging, there's all.
no, yeah, but
So
if-
that,
if I could
yeah,
get
I have
whatever-
all those
Okay,
figures, yeah.
all right.
Yeah, my concern that I brought up at the meeting with the select board, was just, with everything that's being replaced, it's fitting right into place, replacing exactly what's there, so you didn't have to mess with the roof. Obviously, there's gonna be work done on the roof. It's at the end of its life expectancy, so that's something that's gonna have to be done, but as we found with the Forbes building, there was major impact over there because they didn't know where the supports were, and as it turned out, it wasn't where they thought it was. And it caused a lot of problems with the units having to be put on the ground and sit for an extended period of time, and also having to do the repairs on the roof. So, but it seems satisfied that everything is going to replace exactly what's there in place.
In regard to the question of whether municipal building committee is managing that project or not, makes sense to me that it does because of the ongoing responsibilities in the community center and having kind of continuity of knowledge of what's going on in that building. It would make sense to me.
Eventually, I'm sure it will. Right now, it's not. They're not sure who's putting the article forward, whether it's going to come under us or it's going to come under the select board. We're at this point. It's been the select board. My opinion is it should stay with them until. Hopefully it gets approved at the town meeting, and then it can revert over to us for our monthly meetings and updates from that. So hopefully we'll get to that point in March. Town
22nd.
meeting. March 2nd.
22nd.
22nd, yes. All right. Anything further on that? I would just like to take a second for personal privilege, just to acknowledge the passing of Earl Story. Earl was a long member. I don't know if he was the original member of the Municipal Building Committee, but he's been here for many years. Just a super important person on this board. Did a great job for us. Good friend to all of us, and certainly, the town has benefited from his expertise with his job with the DPW, the fields that he maintained for the town, and we'll be benefiting from his expertise for years to come because he put in place some great facilities. But we'll miss Earl. He hasn't been on our meetings for a while, but certainly we will be missing him.
Absolutely.
Anything further to discuss or anything? We can't approve anything, so.
I just had one for Pete. And I know there's an article going forward about the town adopting the next level of.
Stretch energy.
Yeah. What's your opinion? I mean, there's obviously cost associated with it.
So we're sponsoring it. So my opinion is vote yes. The context of it is that there is a new version of the Green Communities program from the state in new grant money, a pool of $60 million that we can compete for if we meet certain criteria, and that's one of the criteria. The implications of the code is it was kind of interesting to me because I follow these things. The energy code made a dramatic change a couple years ago when the new stretch code came out. When that came out, they also introduced this other tier called specialized. But most of the changes were in the stretch code, so we've already gone through most of the changes, the dramatic increases in requirements and efficiency and so forth. And 90% of the state is on the stretch code, so it drove a lot of positive change in my view. The requirements on the specialized code is exclusively to new construction. It doesn't impact additions or alterations or so forth. So I don't see any of our, the definition of what's a new construction is a technical line, and we may trip at some point, but certainly the community center and the library don't trip it. I don't think it impacts any foreseeable school project, so I don't see it impacting town government very much. It is, for example, the Del Webb property had 14 buildings or something they were putting up, the Del Webb Pulte thing, and they were putting up 14 buildings, had built about 7 of them under the old stretch code, and now they have to build them under the new stretch code. They looked at the new stretch code and they they've stopped building gas heated buildings, and they're all heat pumps, they're all electric buildings, building to the new stretch code. And once you've gone all electric, the difference between the stretch code and the specialized code is really, really very little. If you want to keep using gas and you're on the specialized code, you have to put solar on. You have to do, there's extra requirements if you use gas when you're under the specialized code. But the economics are already biasing the decisions toward going all electric anyway. The new codes, specialized and stretch. So the stretch code requires such a dramatic reduction in thermal efficiency. The envelope control and the air handling and so forth is so much stricter that it makes the HVAC system smaller, and therefore it kind of biases the choice toward heat pumps. And that was the purpose. That was the state's goal in changing the code. And the specialized code continues to give you the option of doing fossil fuel, but if you do, then you have to put solar on, and you have to do some other things. You have to put all the wiring in for heat pumps, even though you don't have heat pumps. So it basically makes you put the cost in of heat pumps. If you want to use natural gas, go ahead, buy a natural gas system too, but you got to put all the wiring in. That's okay. That's okay. It's happened before. My computer fell out of the bag. So it is a change. Got a meeting at 9:30 with Fred talking about the specialized code. There are issues for building inspectors in the stretch code, and he feels that it exacerbates a problem he has in the building inspection services. And I'm convinced he's right, and I've talked to DOER and seen emails from building inspector groups that Fred's part of and stuff. So there's an issue we're working to improve the training and the infrastructure in the state side. And kind of the nuance of that is, in the law that changed the stretch code, they took the responsibility for the definition of the stretch code away from the BBRS. Do you know BBRS? Board of Building Regulations and Safety.
Yeah. Yep.
The guys that do the building inspection and building code.
Yep.
They took the energy code away from them and put it into DOER because they wanted it to be a climate goal. They wanted it to meet the climate goal. So they took that away, and in doing so, they broke the relationship building inspectors have with the code developers. So the support services and stuff for building inspectors, they go over here to BBRS, they said it's not us, it's over there.
Yep.
So there's an interagency gap that
Yep.
hasn't been fixed.
Yeah.
So administratively, it's broken. 48 towns, about a quarter of the population of the state has already adopted the specialized code. All of those issues exist with the stretch code, which is like 90% of the state. So there's a lot of discussion going on how to fix that problem. I think we should be going forward, but I got to work through with Fred to get him on board.
Yeah, no, we hear from building inspectors all the time that this was put in place over here, but is administered over here. And
I'd be interested in, so maybe you could say more. So I don't actually know what you do when you say we.
Yeah, so I work for a construction company.
Okay.
We actually have design build capability where a lot of our projects are design build, so we get involved early on and we hear the machinations of trying to figure this all out. And, most building inspectors are like this. They know they have to deal with it, but they really don't want to deal with it. And and it is confusing. And, the other thing that we hear, when I say we, the construction industry,
I get it.
guess is kind of where I'm coming from, is, it's great to have these goals, but if you don't have the electrical infrastructure to support it, then, we may be getting ahead of ourselves. So, I'd be interested in National Grid's. I don't know how Westborough stands in terms of our infrastructure from National Grid to support an all-electric community, if you will.
So, we actually are in pretty good shape compared to other communities, and I could send you a link, and you can look at the capacity of the main lines through Westborough. It's publicly available. It is not infinite and will run out. The all electric, are we in shape to do all electric? No. We're not going to do all electric in the next 5 years or 10 years. It's going to take 20 years to get to where it's all more to go all electric. All of that infrastructure will have to be upgraded. And it's not today. It's going to have to happen over time, and it's going to cost money, and it's going to be ratepayers paying the money. And where's that money coming from? It's all out of our pockets.
Yeah.
There's an unspoken one that the state's aware of is you shut down, as you move people off gas, you have all this gas infrastructure that the gas utilities have promises of recovering all those costs from ratepayers, but the ratepayers are gone. They're not paying the bills anymore because they just went to electric. So there's fewer and fewer ratepayers trying to pay for the same amount of infrastructure. And if you try to imagine the shutdown model of the gas infrastructure, it's like, okay, 3 houses on this street, 8 houses on this street, you got to have the whole line running, and it's got to be leak-proof, and you got all the service costs, and your rate base is breaking down in bits and pieces. It's not like, okay, we're shutting down Westborough this quarter, next quarter we're shutting down Hopkinton, because then you could do it efficiently.
Right.
But it's just not going to happen that way. So the amortization of gas infrastructure costs, which is already kind of an obligation, is really an unknown.
Same thing with highways, right? A lot of the highway funds come from fossil fuels.
Yeah, that's easier for me to kind of imagine how that would get tracked.
Yeah.
You can do it with taxing EVs or charging. When you charge on the state highways, 20 cents goes into the state highway fund, whatever. But the building transition is really hard.
Okay. Guess we just picked the next meeting. Is everybody available February 27th? It's the last Thursday of the month. Okay. All right.
I'm going to say,
Well, we know.
we don't know. I won't be here, but I can't speak for anybody else. But
Right.
I'm going to put that down. Andy is going to attend the meetings,
Okay.
just in case there's any questions on any of the projects that
Mm-hmm.
we're involved with in the town. He'll have direct knowledge.
Okay. All right. In that case, was a motion to end the meeting.
Did we end the
We
meeting?
can't vote on it now.
Can't vote, so the meeting.
End the meeting.
This meeting is ended.